It's a well-known fact that Scott Cawthon likes this community. While other game devs who we'll leave unnamed aren't quite as caring people, Scott Cawthon goes out of his way to make sure people all know that he's, well, just the greatest. But today we're not going to talk about anything he's really done per se. We're going to talk about the YouTubers. Yes, the ones who made this game go viral in the first place. Because if it wasn't for them, FNAF would be nowhere close to where it is now. And, as gratitude for that, Scott has, many times, put YouTubers in his games, taken their suggestions, used their advice, mostly Markiplier, but even YouTubers like Jacksepticeye, PewDiePie, all the pies. Guys. Today we're going to be going over the coolest times that Scott has listened to this community, and also just little Easter eggs of these YouTubers that he's put in his games. I'm going to go through them rather quickly so I can get through them all, but I'd like to show you how much Scott listens to this community and the YouTubers in general, and I think it's pretty cool to see how, thanks to these YouTubers, we have a lot of characters, events, and stuff that otherwise we probably wouldn't have. The most obvious one, and therefore the one I'm going to start with first, is Freddie Space 2. This thing was basically just a walking cameo. I mean, Chipper was in there, lots of Scott's other old creations were in there, and 3 different YouTubers were in there. 4 if you count MatPat's wife as a separate thing. I don't know. There were 3 boss battles in that game. One was with Dawko, where he was called the Poopit Master. That in and of itself is a reference to the whole Poopit meme that's been going on in his channel for a while. You know, he has his English accent, and so he says puppet like Poopit, and you know, it's a whole thing. And the second is with Markiplier, where he's called Markiplier. I don't know if that's a reference to anything, I don't think so, but that's what he's called, and it features a bunch of voice lines from his original playthrough of Five Nights at Freddy's. Lastly is the Mad Theorist, which features MatPat, Stephanie, and their wife Oliver. Oliver? Or is it just Ollie? Is his name literally Ollie? Or is that just, like, it's shortened to all? Okay, I don't know. I'm done with their family. I have no idea what's going on over there. Whatever, on to the next fact. Here's one that's a bit more infamous. When PewDiePie played FNAF 4, he had some a bit harsh words to say about the game. See, at this point, we had 4 games that were pretty much the same, and now by the time the 4th one came around, when he got jump scared on, I believe, the first night, nothing. He was just underwhelmed, and he made sure to tell everyone watching, and it was just because the game wasn't scary anymore.
If you play the first 3 games, you're practically immune to the jump scares by now.
After you have 4 games that are pretty much exactly the same, you kind of start to lose interest. People did not like that at first, as expected, but I think Scott used that in making FNAF 5, which was obviously a very different look at the franchise. I think Scott saw what PewDiePie said and decided it was a good time to mix up the formula. Here's another one from Freddy in Space, although the original Freddy in Space. Remember, it was a minigame in FNAF World, after the 2nd update, I believe? Yeah, in there was another reference to Poopit, which is apparently Scott's just his favorite thing. Another time where YouTubers got a little reference in a FNAF game was FNAF World. It's interesting how not many main FNAF games have been in this list. It's been mostly spin-offs like Freddy in Space or just FNAF World. The only one that was a main game was when PewDiePie influenced how Scott made the next game, FNAF 5. And that isn't even confirmed. But anyway, on to this next one. In the loading screens of FNAF World, there will be a character, and also a little quote that they have. One of these loading screens, Nightmare Chica's, had a little line that said, "making you a sandwich." This seems pretty random at first. I mean, the only thing you can really think of is that since Chica's in the kitchen, she would make you a sandwich. But in Markiplier's playthrough of FNAF 4, the game that came right before FNAF World, when he heard Nightmare Chica making noise with the pots and pans in the kitchen, he said this.
I mean, that might be Mom making me a tasty sandwich.
So this line is probably a reference to his playthrough. I always think it's cool how Scott watches people play his games, and I'm pretty sure that helps him make the next ones better as well. and it also gives us cool references like these. But this isn't the only one in this game. Before we get to another time YouTubers have actually influenced these games, here's one more reference in them. Again, from one of Markiplier's videos, but this one was a FNAF 4 teaser. This one. It looks pretty innocent at first, but when you brighten it up, you want to poop yourself, and in my case, I sure did. This teaser on its own isn't really referencing anything, but it's called Don't Wake the Baby, which is a reference to, obviously, what Markiplier called the puppet in his playthrough of FNAF 2. This next one is really interesting, but could also be a total coincidence. In Jacksepticeye's first playthrough of the original game, he said this.
Hey! What's that? What's that? Someone stole your dog. I don't give a shit. Stay out!
Yeah, that's a little bit odd, especially considering that now, with the extended backstory that we now have on these games, it's interesting because the soul-possessing Chica is known to have a dog who died, and then William Afton lured her to her death by telling her that he was alive and that he'd bring her to him. Obviously, this is probably just a complete coincidence, but it could also be a sign that Scott likes taking little story bits from people and using them in his actual games. Unlikely, but it could be the case. Another prediction slash idea that could be a total coincidence again, but might not be, is when Markiplier was talking about Five Nights at Freddy's and, just how much he adores it, blah blah blah, Markiplier stuff. He was talking about how scary it would be in VR. A lot of other YouTubers have mentioned this, but him in particular. And what do you know, now we have an actual VR game. Of course, this one wasn't made by Scott, but it was originally Scott's idea, of course. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you guys for watching. This was a couple of, cool little references that Scott has hit in these games, and some ways that these YouTubers have actually influenced the way the series has gone. If you enjoy, maybe like. If you're new here, maybe subscribe. I'm a YouTuber. I have to say these things. It's in the contract. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.